Good morning. Today is a special day. Welcome to the Committee on Public Finance, perhaps the most important committee in Parliament. Happy New Year to all of you. I invited the officials also in before we got ourselves started because I want this to be inclusive. So let's, we will not get to the business quite yet. I'll take about 20 minutes to make some remarks. After that, we'll get into the business, but I would like you to listen in to the conversation here. First, let me introduce our Secretariat staff. Chinta Bulat Sinhala, Assistant Director, Administration, is the Secretary to the committee. This is Chinta. Then we have Umanga Pandita, Principal Officer. That's Umanga there. Then we have Ms. Lanka Veerasinghe, Assistant Principal Officer. Will you identify yourself? And then we have Mrs. Sankani Velaratna, Assistant Principal Officer, who is not here. We have 12 members. Since most of us are new, only 3 from the previous committees, I would like you to introduce yourselves, just your name and the district that you represent.
Morning, all the best in New Year. I'll be coming back.
Also, on a housekeeping matter, we can speak in any language. There is automatic, simultaneous interpretation, translation. So you can use whichever language you prefer. You have the headphones. Yes, please. From?
Kaushalya Ariratna from Colombo.
Harsha Rajkarna from Gampha district.
Harsha Surya Peruma, National List.
Chaturanga Besingha from Colombo.
Himal Palihena from Anuradhapura.
I am Tilna Samarakon from Anuradhapura.
Right. So, thank you. It's unusual for government MPs to sit in a committee chaired by an opposition MP. But the Committee on Public Finance is the only committee mandated by standing order to be chaired by an MP from the opposition. Obvious reason, ladies and gentlemen, is for checks and balances in the most important task of Parliament, and that is, quote, the full control of public finance, unquote, as per Article 148 of the Constitution. The executive can come up with policy, but they cannot make law. Law is only made in Parliament. So the policy, for it to be converted into legislation, it must be made law. And that happens here, so that is why it has full control of finance. Can I have the standing orders, please? The duties of the Committee on Public Finance is listed out in Standing Order 121. I'll just read it quickly, the main things. It shall be the duty of the Committee on Public Finance to examine the collection of revenue under Article 148. So all matters related to revenue, right? Then B, all payments from the consolidated fund. So any payment that gets made by the government can be examined by this committee. Utilization of public funds for specific purposes by law. So if you allocate X amount of money to be spent on a particular subject, has it been spent on that or wasted or underutilized or whatever? Then the application of public funds. Whatever is in the consolidated fund, how is it applied? How is it used? The decisions of appropriations contained in the Appropriation Act for the current year and transfer of appropriation and the unexpected balances. So we passed the budget. Budget is essentially the Expropriation Act, which is going to be submitted to Parliament any day. And then at the budget, that is about the expenditure. On the revenue side, the government in the budget will propose how they are going to make revenue. So there are a lot of things that this committee is responsible for in terms of the appropriations. And the next point is the implementation of the Appropriation Act for the current year. Then public debt and debt service. Unfortunately, this committee was only set up in 2015, and there had not been a significant amount of focus on debt through this committee also. And hereafter, going forward, checking on how debt is managed, and we have a new law, the Debt Management Act. We have a new office, Public Debt Management Office. All of that will be scrutinized by this committee. Then reports and statements under the FMRA, Fiscal Management Responsibility Act. But now the FMRA was repealed, and it was replaced by the Public Finance Management Act. Even the business we are taking up today is as per the former act, but perhaps our officers will explain how it is now taken under the new act. Reports and the bills, motions, resolutions, and orders defined in Article 152 of the Constitution. I'll come to that. And also, any member, the Parliament, any committee or minister may refer any matter to the Committee on Public Finance for consideration. So, any committee or anybody can sort of raise any issue as per related to public finance related matters, not personal matters, to be brought here. Committees shall from time to time report to Parliament the issues arising from these matters referred to paragraph 2 and 3 above. I'll explain that in a minute. The committee shall present before commencement of the committee stage of the appropriation bill a report A on, this is important, and the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance is also here, sir, the fiscal, financial and economic assumptions used in the basis in arriving at total estimated expenditure and revenue. This is critically important because we don't make the right, if we don't make the right assumption, we are not going to end up with the right amount of revenue or the expenditure. So it is critically important that we are all in agreement with the assumptions. What is inflation going to be? What is growth rate going to be? What is the now that we are in a IMF agreement, all that, those assumptions have to be sort of examined, and we have to present a report before the committee stage begins. So this is a big task for this committee. After the appropriations bill is presented and even the budget is read out for the first time, this committee must, in a matter of 1 week, present 2 reports. One is on the assumptions used, and the second is on the estimates, including whether the allocation of money is in compliance with the policies of the government. So then the policies of the government, so the government will have to tell us what is their policy. So based on the policy, are we allocating the right kind of funds for policy? So if you say our policy is to focus on matter A, but there is not enough money allocated for matter A but for matter B, then we have an issue. So that has to be sort of looked into. So ideally what we need to do is like quarterly look at how monies have been allocated for that year and get an assessment as to whether the monies are being spent according to those allocations. We present various reports to Parliament, and the quorum is 4. The most common of the work that we do is the bills. Is in subsection I, 2I, the bills, motions, resolutions and orders defined in Article 152 of the Constitution. What that means is any bill, any amendment, any motion, any gazette, any resolution that deals with public finance must come to this committee before it goes to the House for a vote. So sometimes there are lots of these matters that come up. Some are basic things that we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but some are not. So there is a lot of work that this committee must complete before we debate this in the House. Then I told you we have 2 reports to be prepared. One is the assumptions report and the other one is the allocation. The assumptions report we have always used outside help to do, and I'll tell you where we are on that matter. and on the allocations, the Institute of Policy Studies have usually undertaken that, and I mean, we can continue that because somebody needs staff to do that. That's quite a lengthy exercise to do in a matter of days. So while, I mean, we know more about the COPE and COPA, right? They are quote unquote backward looking in that they examine the past, probing audit reports. But our committee is forward looking in that we are the last point of interaction before any public finance piece of legislation is presented and approved. So we don't sort of look at audit reports and things like that. We look at legislation to come and we debate those matters here. In the recent past, our committee was in the center of a couple of controversial transactions. The visa outsourcing matter and the electric car matter. It is not by design that we got involved in that. On the visa outsourcing matter, the government tried to bypass our committee to increase visa fees. In fact, if it came, it should have come here, but it went through another committee. But when we found out about it, when we called them in, we realized there was a much bigger deal then we went into it, and you know all what has happened. The other one is the electric vehicle issue. We refused to extend the increased threshold of the luxury tax because we didn't see logic there. And because we refused to extend it, the other matters came up, and that is how in both these cases we requested the Auditor General to undertake a comprehensive audit, and now it is before the law, and I don't want to get into that. But that's generally not our bread and butter. Our main focus is on legislation looking forward. Now the issue is we need technical staff. We have administrative staff to run the secretariat, and they always do a great job convening meetings, preparing notes, etc. But we have no technical staff, zero. Now COPE and COPA, they have hundreds of auditors, accountants working in the auditor's office, preparing the documentation necessary for each sitting, and the Auditor General would sit on the left of the chairman or chairperson and help that person with the work that is before that person. But here we have no technical staff, zero. So this is a big problem, right? What we need is independent from the officers, the ladies and gentlemen who are there, independent from them, we need to analyze the pros and cons of various pieces of legislation that is brought before us, right? So, say revision of tax. Now, I recall a particular instance when the taxes were reduced. Doctor, you remember? And as a member, I kept questioning, if you reduce taxes like this, what is going to happen to your revenue? But they said, no, look, there is no problem, revenue will be generated. But ultimately what happened was there was no revenue, Honorable Minister, and we don't need to get into that further. But because we didn't have sort of a technical staff to be able to stand up to the officials, we lost that case. So that cannot happen, so therefore one of the most important matter before us as a committee is the setting up of the Parliamentary Budget Office. Now the Parliamentary Budget Office, in the last Parliament, we prioritized the setting up of this independent institution, right? And the Budget Officer and the Deputy Budget Officer will be actually hired through the Constitutional Council. And, legislation has already been passed, now it is law. We are in the process of hiring these people, and the liaison between the government, Parliament and the Budget Office is the ex officio chair of the Committee on Public Finance. So we have been speaking to the officers, and I also spoke to the Honourable Speaker a few days ago and appraised him of the urgency of setting up this Parliamentary Budget Office. As you know, Honourable Minister, most well-governed countries, parliaments have independent budget officers, right? And that is non-partisan. They are technical people who will give the pros and cons of the pieces of legislation that is brought before the committee. And you know, I'm glad that this committee this time has many technically knowledgeable members, which is really great, right? We have academics, we have economists, we have accountants, we have finance people, right? We have professors, we have all kinds of technically competent people. So as a committee also, it will be rich, the discussion. If we have appropriate former Minister of Finance, right? It will be good for the you know, the discussion will be rich and meaningful. So what we did last Parliament was we used funding from development partners. There is an agreement with Parliament and these development partners supporting Parliament business to obtain the services of some analysts. So always we had a few analysts working with us, and they did an amazing job, right? They took the paperwork that came to our office. They went through the legislation. They did some analysis and they presented it to everyone, right? So and we also converted one of the small rooms as an office for the analysts, and we got some of the development partners to purchase the computers and things like that. So like I said, I informed the Honorable Speaker and the Secretary General the need to establish this ASAP, right? So either we set up the budget office, not either, we have to set it up, and it will take some time. And in the meantime, Honorable Minister, what we need to do is to set up this interim budget office, which we did last time. So offline we can discuss how that can happen, but it is an absolutely essential requirement for this committee to function properly. Then the next point is the work of our committee has always been transparent. The proceedings are made available through the Parliament media to the public, except for few instances where information was market sensitive. The Governor knows there have been perhaps 2 instances in the recent last Parliament where we stopped the information from reaching the public because they are market sensitive information. But other than that, we are transparent. People can see what happens in this committee. It is a pillar of good governance, and we will continue to do so. Something we started during the last Parliament was to encourage stakeholders to participate in formulating legislation, which I think is really what we want to do. And I'll give you 3 examples of how, you know, there are many, but I'll give you 3 examples. The application of VAT, you know, there was this whole argument, you know, debate with Uber and PickMe, how Uber was not being taxed while PickMe was getting taxed. So we invited Uber, PickMe, we invited the Asian Alliance of Internet Service Providers. We had a full room and also overseas on Zoom where we all sort of got together, all the stakeholders, Treasury, everyone. And that is how the new legislation is coming. I think the Deputy Secretary is preparing to present the change, Honourable Minister, how we are going to bring the 2 platforms and all these service providers based on the jurisdiction of consumption being the taxable entity as opposed to jurisdiction of production. So that is what we had agreed here. So that's one where we brought the stakeholders. The second one was a need-based grant for purchase of menstrual hygiene products for schoolgirls. And this, you recall, Honourable Member, UNICEF, Health Ministry, Education Ministry, we took up this matter of period poverty, and we proposed through this committee a particular mechanism which the government actually started. A third point is microfinance. You remember, the ST, the ministry or the government had drafted a bill on the microfinance matter. You know, microfinance, you know, there's multiple issues with people unable to pay back and so on. And this committee brought in stakeholders. So we had civil society organizations, we had actual implementers of microfinance and all that. And the government withdrew the legislation and said, look, this doesn't cover 80% perhaps of who needed to have been covered. And that all came about because we had the stakeholders participate. So I think what we should do is to take this opportunity that we have to get more stakeholder participation and extend sort of this lawmaking process. And I think you will all agree that it would be richer if in cases which is necessary that we bring in stakeholders, because this committee has the power to do that. Finally, this committee is not, and I repeat, not about party politics or throwing mud. So my request is that we must stay above petty political issues and concentrate on important national issues. And I will use my discretion if necessary and ask members to comply. Right? And we will start on time at 2 o'clock on sitting weekdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's our normal sitting hours. We will finish within 2 hours. We will make every endeavor to finish within 2 hours. And on non-sitting weeks, we will meet at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays only. The reason for that is government has a lot of business, and sometimes, now even today, right, we don't meet on a Monday. But because, Honorable Minister, you requested, right, that you needed to take this matter to debate tomorrow, we made a special case to meet today. But sometimes when 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 gazettes come, like for tomorrow and day after, we have 13 pieces of business to cover. So that is why we meet on a non-sitting Tuesday as well. Documentation circulation is either via Google Drive. Everyone will get Google Drive, and then you will have all the information on the Google Drive. And hard copies will be sent to your homes, offices if required. And if you need, yeah.
Just a quick one. Is there a reason why it's on Tuesday? Can it be done on a Monday by any chance? I'm just asking.
No, there is no reason for Tuesday. We can change the non-sitting week.
No, I was just wondering because in case now in my case, I'm not going to come from Betticlow on a Tuesday morning and then attend this meeting and head back. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it's a Monday, there is a higher chance of finishing this meeting and on even then very doubtful, but on a Monday there's a better chance of staying the weekend, finishing this after sitting weeks, finishing this and heading back. Just
I am open. We can take that call right here.
Because otherwise, for most MPs who live outstation to come back on a Tuesday, attend this meeting and head back, it's not a very practical option depending on how far you are. So if you have any other business, Monday at least you can justify, saying that you finish this.
I get your point. I'm open to this, Honorable Chaturanga, and I have no problem. This is
for the ministers, what we have the problem is we have the public day on Monday. So I'm skipping that and coming here today. So that's some kind of a problem. If you ask each one, it will have different structures. But for ministers, Monday is a kind of a tough.
Is Monday a public day for all the ministers?
Most of the ministers. I know education also does it on Monday. Minister of Industries does it on Monday.
Friday is okay? You can write by
Yeah, Friday is
Saturday, Sunday.
Friday?
Let's take it as a call when required.
No, but we meet, Honorable Ravi, we meet every non-sitting week now. Next non-sitting week also we'll meet.
On Tuesday itself, because I think Friday also again, plus Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you will have anything to do in Colombo.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we do is,
You are the busiest.
we provide online facility.
So we'll do it online.
Yeah, so for members who are off-site, we have now from last parliament, we let people come online. So
That's okay now?
that's okay, no?
That's fine.
Yeah.
So,
I know about the online.
all right, okay, right. So let's do that. Let's make a note on that.
Business committee meeting, we can't get Zoom participation for forums.
Unless there is something of public interest, like you said, sensitive information, those ones you skip.
Yes.
The non-sensitive ones you can.
Yeah, because that is how during COVID, that is how we met. Always we met online. So we can have some, the technical staff is here. Yeah, we can have some security measure so that it is not open to the whole world. And we take into confidence each member here. There's a lot of sensitive information that gets, divulged here. So we don't expect our members to talk openly or, discuss these matters publicly. So that confidence we all must have. But let's look at it. Then let's
and
leave
the
it.
sensitive ones, you don't provide a Zoom link.
Yeah.
If it's market sensitive information, then you skip it.
We'll go case by case. Yeah, case by case we'll do that. And if you need documentation delivered to your office or home, wherever it is, please inform our staff and tell them in which language you would like to receive them. We also have a WhatsApp group for our committee. We didn't set it up, but we will set it up after today. It will be administered by the Secretariat, and I will post only if there is a very urgent matter, but it's one-way communication. Then please actively participate. And I don't want people to come and mark the register for 5 minutes and go. Right? We want active participation because this is an important committee. The quorum is 4. And also please maintain decorum during sessions. I don't need to tell these things, but I thought I might anyway. And try to direct questions through the chair. Use any language you desire. Like I said, simultaneous interpretation is available. Dress code on non-sitting week is office attire. Always treat officials with professional courtesy. Everybody is trying to do a job. They have their job, we have our job, and please respect that professionalism. That's all I had to say. Then item 2 is invitation of members for an open discussion with staff and senior officials from the Treasury and the Central Bank. We are privileged, both the Secretary to the Treasury and the Governor Central Bank are both here. I know they had other things to do, but they are here. So we appreciate your presence. And the committee's regular, because they are the committee's regular counterparts. DST is here every day. Let us understand their expectations also from the committee. That's why I wanted you all to also listen so that we can all be on one page. Before I start, I want to acknowledge the cordial working relationship under very difficult circumstances during the last Parliament. I don't need to expand on it. The legislature, via this committee, collaborated with the executive branch to enact a series of tough laws that took the country out of the crisis. For example, the IMF agreement, the benchmarks on the DSA, the passage of the Central Bank Act, approval of the much debated domestic debt restructuring plan, the Public Debt Management Act, and several more that were essential to bring the economy back from the grave calamity. On a personal note, I must add that some pieces of legislation, as a chair, I disagreed with. But in the spirit of democracy, let the government proceed. Finally, I wish to congratulate the Governor of the Central Bank for being named as LMD's Sri Lankan of the Year. I know you got both bouquets and brickbats. You were called derogatory names and agents of various countries, etc. But at the end, Governor, yourself, ST, your staff, 2 agencies delivered. And we appreciate that as this committee. Thank you. So now let me open the floor for discussion. We'll take a few minutes and then we'll get to our business. What I did is I collapsed the presentation of the mid-year report, and I wanted them to give us an updated position as to where we are now, because mid-year report was now it's all dated and it is really redundant. So before we do that, I'll open the floor for any questions, discussions amongst ourselves and the officials both here and there.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can take the opportunity to start putting the platform board on. Firstly, wish everybody the very best for 2025. But I presume the government is entrusted to run the government. We are an oversight committee that is looking into matters that have been entrusted to us to give a report on. And also the government servants that are there must be made to work rather than be caught up in committees all the time. And I saw that has been a major some sensitive investments that basically get bottled down and knocked down onto certain things that are reflected here. That's why I said the government runs the government. Ours is a committee entrusted to look into the policies that have been put forward. So let's take that as a way forward, because I see last time, while if we try to make this, as you quite rightly said, not to politicize it, ensure that we give the goods and the bads of that policy that is interested to be brought in. Because I believe that the government must be made to run the government. So on that scope, I also like to say that we confine ourselves, that we don't see officials. Some of the high officials last time was out of 5 days working, maybe 5 days they were here. So let's come to a working relationship as to how that becomes, that's more meaningful to run governments rather than get caught to committees. So let's, on the move, we'll take decisions quick and ensure that it's the right decision that is taken on behalf of the Parliament. Once again, my report is that we need to report to Parliament and not through the media to the Parliament.
Okay.
That was last time. There are certain sensitive investment-related ones that got hijacked or knocked off because there were decisions taken before. So I guess that's in good spirit. We are in opposition. But it is, I know how difficult it is to run a government. And I want that running of the government be entrusted to the government. Because otherwise they'll say the committee took a decision and go forward. So if we are there together to say, yes, these are the best to go forward, and then qualify that. And I guess it's good for the other officials also worried to take a decision. Because otherwise the politician doesn't take a decision. If the official doesn't sign off, then we are caught up in a limbo. So that's where I think we need to make that clarity and clarion call.
Honourable Member, both points I'll take, I'll respond. The first point, yeah, it is government's policy. This committee can't make government policy. It is, the government has to make policy, and we are oversight in the sense, not backward-looking oversight, but forward-looking oversight. So that's the difference. So we are not looking at audit reports, etc. of the past, but we are looking at what could happen in the future if you do that. So that is why this committee is critically important. And I take Honorable Karnaka's point, that is why I said, let us be professional about our conduct in the media. When we talk about matters that get discussed here, normally what happens is a matter that is discussed here is reported to Parliament the next day. So if we have a meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday that report is presented to Parliament, then that is public knowledge, right? So try always to stay within that time limit. So let's not talk to media until I as the chair report to Parliament the next day morning. So that is, I think, that's just normal ethics that we should follow. But transparency is critically important, and so we will make the committee transparent, because we don't want to sort of be accused of doing things under the veil of various walls that we build for ourselves. ST Governor, why we did this way is so that is there anything that you would specifically request from us as a committee? And I forgot, we have sent a directive to the Secretary Treasury that we don't want more than 3 people coming here unless necessary from each department, because we don't want officials' times wasted. And also that is why the Speaker is now attempting to rationalize the number of committees in this Parliament. We don't need redundant committees. For instance, there is a committee on public finance, which I read out the scope, which is all encompassing on matters of public finance. So we don't need 3 other committees to do the same thing. What happens is these people are called to this committee today, another committee tomorrow, third committee the day after, and they are spending all their time in Parliament and unable Honorable Minister to spend time at the Treasury. So I want you also to start, thinking about and rationalizing these committees. And I think we have given some reports on how perhaps we do that based on our experience of the last Parliament and the previous one. Yes, Governor.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Very useful, comprehensive explanation of rules, regulations, and measures. I think I certainly agree a lot of things what you said. And also at the beginning, I think I must thank your kind words on our recognition. I think I must say this is it's not personal. My thing is a team effort by my team here and also Silva, Secretary Treasury, combined team effort with a lot of institutions. It's good that that has me recognition. Thank you very much for your kind words. And on the process, I think, as you quite rightly mentioned, this is a committee on public finance. Clearly, the mandate you explained covers the public finance. I think, as you can remember last time, under the new Central Bank Act, we have a responsibility on the accountability to report to the Parliament under the new Act. There is no such specific committee for us to report. What we do usually, we write to the Speaker at least once in 4 months, or we have to report to the Parliament on the breach of our mandate in terms of inflation. We write through the Minister of Finance, it is submitted to the Parliament, but there is no specific committee unless Speaker last time, Honourable Speaker arranged a meeting for us to come and explain. At one time you briefed us and we came and explained on our accountability reporting requirement. So I would like to see a formal arrangement, either this committee or any other committee. I think probably you better speak to Honourable Speaker and have this formal arrangement at least once in 4 months. We are required to report to the Parliament on the accountability. So that's one thing I would like to highlight. And on other than that, you, Honourable Chair, you send us, give us a direction for us to brief on 6 areas where we have prepared the presentation, and I shared that in advance. I'm not quite sure because there's a mid-year report I was told that has to be also discussed. Given the time frame, if you want us to make the presentation, I can invite one of my director research to take you through about in 20 minutes if there's time. Otherwise, we already shared the presentation. We are happy to answer any questions, clarification on the 6 areas that you have directed us to present. That is already on the table. So that's all for me. I think, ST, if you can.
Honourable Chairman, again, I also want to, thank you for the acknowledgement of the work done by, all the stakeholders. As Governor mentioned, it was not an easy task. It was one of the toughest job that I have ever seen in my 34-year career. Again, it was a team effort supported by everyone, the Finance Ministry, the Central Bank Presidential Secretary, the Political Authority, the advisors, Official Credit Committee, IMF, rating agencies, everyone was involved in this. So it was a very tough task, but finally we saw the results, and we are happy about that. And also thank you very much for the sort of recognition that you also gave us. My sort of initial comment, you very correctly, Honourable Chairman, identified that we are not looking at the past, we are looking at the future. So we, in fact, after this restructuring process, after all these tedious reforms, we have come to a situation where we are today. But the task, I mean, if you go beyond this committee, as a country, as a government, would be to basically use this opportunity to go forward with a strong a commitment to ensure that Sri Lanka as a country prosper. So that's the broader sort of objective. I am hopeful that this committee would be one of the key committees that would be helping in that endeavor, particularly when it comes to the fiscal operations of the government. As we all know, Sri Lanka has been living beyond its means, and there was a situation where at some point in the past, about 2 years ago, we were sort of stuck because of this. We were not able to continue this. So that's why we had to go to this, IMF program and also restructuring program and all those things. And my, key message that, we should learn from the past mistakes. We should not allow to happen those sort of mistakes, not only in the next 5 years, maybe take next 10, 15, 30 years. Because this is a huge lesson that we should learn as a nation when we're going forward, not to make these mistakes, particularly when it comes to macroeconomic management. I think you knew and you saw, we all went through this crisis. You know the importance of maintaining, discipline management in the macroeconomy, and also when you're taking decision, discipline and data-driven approach is very important based on the information and technical analysis, and also using a judgment. Those are very important. And going forward, I'm hopeful that, as Honorable Chair just indicated, all these members of this committee are very educated people. So I'm very hopeful that they would give the guidance to us, through their wisdom, to basically drive the process, in addition to the work that we would be doing, either in the central bank or the Treasury. So with that expectation, I would stop, and thank you very much for the question.
Right. So now let us introduce formally for the record. But something that I must say is it was always a team effort. The government at the time, the opposition at the time, this committee played a pivotal role. Not that we always agreed with everything, but certain things had to be done because legislation needed to have been approved. Without legislation, nothing could have happened, right? So it was under tremendous stress sometimes that things got done. And so just wanted to make that comment.